on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
Well, today is a very special day because I get to meet someone who I've seen online or not. What do they call it? On LinkedIn? I think it is. Every once in a while, writing about the great leadership ideas and all that stuff. And she just retired. She is Chief Master Sergeant, retired Marta Dunning. And how long? What, the 1st of May you retired, I think, Marta?
I did, May 1st.
So just you're fresh out of the
Fresh.
Yeah, you're still answering the phone. This is Chief Dunning, right?
It's still, yes, it's still settling in.
Yeah. Well, keep it. Okay, that's my opinion. There are people that say you shouldn't do it anymore. I tell them, shut up. But anyway, because unless if you want to get my attention, you call me Chief. Otherwise, I'm not answering. Now, my name is Jose. If you call me Jose, porque somos Latinos, you speak Spanish. So if you call me Jose, I'm going to have a throwback to my abuela, because she's the only one that called me that with my middle name, Jose Roberto. Oh no, it's over.
¿Qué hice?
La chancla, sí, ¿qué hice? La chancla comes out and it's over. So anyway,
That's
good
right.
to meet you, Marta. It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for your service. Now, how long did you serve?
I did 24 years, 10 months. My husband keeps giving me a hard time. He's like, I need to just round it up to 25.
Yeah.
So a few months short of 25.
Yeah. Now, why did you retire? Did you find another job? They always say when it's time. I never knew. I still don't know, because, I served 50 years altogether, and I'm still going up to the academy to hang out with the cadets. So I have not had that feeling or that thought that it's time. So did you just, wake up one morning and say, I'm out of here?
No, I mean, it was you know how it is. Everything's always so complex. So many things kind of play a role.
Yeah.
But I knew when I was selected for the position that I made chief in, that in order to truly stay effective, I wouldn't be able to sit there for too long before you lose relevancy to an extent. So I retired out of a numbered Air Force. Wonderful opportunity, but you start becoming disconnected from that tactical and operational because you are so in the strategic. And I definitely felt like I had more to give, but like you said, I knew that there would be other ways that would present themselves if I stay engaged.
Yeah.
And, just even through things like this, just connections.
Right.
But I knew I felt like I had kind of disconnected a lot, especially from the tactical side, which is, understandable as we grow in our leadership roles. And then family wise, my children graduated this year from high school. There's going to be a lot of changes in their lives. And one of the things that I've always prioritized is their growth and their development, because I feel like even as a leader, if I'm not leading in my own family, then that's going to carry over into my professional life. And my husband has a couple of opportunities. He's also a service member that could potentially come up. And we knew that continuing the mill to mill was only going to make that more challenging. So when we sat down as a family, we looked at it as a whole. And my health, I've taken some health hits in the last couple of years. And that, as you know, I do all the things that I'm supposed to do to try to stay on track. But I realized I'm getting to the point where I'm not giving the 100% that I felt I was giving in all my roles.
Yeah.
And the right thing to do for not just my health, my family, but also to honor the role of a chief master sergeant was, to leave at the right time. I didn't want to be one of those people that gets to the point where they're like, wow, I can't believe she's still around.
Yeah.
And like I said, I felt like if I took a step to the side, because it's not a step back, that people could still reach out to me, and I could feed into them, pour into them, because I'm still developing myself. But now it's not, I'm not necessarily, it's a more informal, which I feel like a lot of times we are so much more effective. Those of us that are truly led by our heart to serve others, a lot of times we're more effective when we are in an informal role.
Yeah.
Just because it never ends. I'm sure you see it in your from your perch, you probably interact with hundreds and thousands of people, even when you're just going to the grocery store, and you're probably feeding them and leading them and coaching them, and they may not even realize it, and I've always admired that about, people who have done that for me. And I thought, okay, it, like you said, it just kind of clicked that this was really the right time before all the other thing, before I got to the point where I was like, I don't even want to see people anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I've always thought, Chief, that the real effective leader, and I won't say leadership because I have my own perspective on that, leading, the real effective leading occurs informally. Once, and I, it's changed. I hope we don't have to argue about that, because I like to argue. But because we're Latino, I'm a Latino man. I like to argue. I don't even care about what we're arguing about. I just want to argue. Yes, but once you get the formal leader, you become the formal leader. Really, in effect, now you got the title. You are like, I can't stand this SEL thing, the senior enlisted leader. Okay, so now you do need a title to be a leader. I mean, effectively, that's what we're saying. Where before, and still, you're right. I feel like people tell me I'm still leading them. Okay, I don't want to lead anymore. I want to follow. But nonetheless, the leading that happens is informal, exactly, because I don't have a real title. Everybody still calls me chief, and I guess that's a title, but that's really more of an identity than anything else. But yeah, it's different. And the cool thing is that, and with all due respect, I hope I don't offend anybody. I have a mentor who told me the best time in your life is when you don't give a shit anymore. If you haven't been there, you will find out, because I don't really care. Yeah. What are you going to do to me? Put me in jail?
There's a lot of personal freedom.
A lot. And then you can be you a lot better than to be that person that was on, the placard on your door. Now, what did you do just throughout your career? Did you have several AFSCs, or were you?
No. So I did dabble in a couple, but for the most part, the majority of my career is a 1 Charlie 5. It's a battle management operator. So here locally at Tyndall, we ensure we control aircraft. Some of us control aircraft during combat operations, not like the FAA or air traffic controllers, but we bring aircraft together to identify them and ensure that they're friendly and they don't have any nefarious intent. It's a career field that was heavily highlighted during 9/11. The amazing professionals that work at the Eastern Air Defense Sector out of Utica, New York. That is what they did. That was their role in identifying those aircraft that crashed into the Twin Towers. So that's it's something our career field works every single day, 24/7, to avoid a catastrophe like that. But even before then, our career field was born out of Pearl Harbor. Because before then, we always, we knew that we had enemy coming from external countries. And, once that was identified, we realized there was a need for air battle managers. We've been called several other things. One of them was, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. But anyways, there's a couple of specialties within our career field. Some of us are called slicks, and they are trackers. So they track things on radar, and they do have a couple of other duties and roles. And then you can either take the data link, which is a highly specialized technical piece of our career field, and a lot of that is computer connections and transfer of information, to put it simply. And then I took the weapons director route. So I controlled aircraft for a couple of years. But as you know, as we ascend, a lot of times we promote ourselves out of that technical aspect. And it was a very rewarding time for me to be able to do that. But then, of course, you grow into more of a role to ensure that you're developing the right people into the right positions at the right time in order to perform those duties. So we have the schoolhouse for the 13 Bravos and now the 1 Charlie 5s here to learn how to control here at Tyndall. We have air battle management operators and air battle management officers at Rome, New York, as I mentioned, or Utica, New York, out of the Eastern Air Defense Sector. Tacoma, Washington is another one of our hub. And then we all feed into and receive information from NORAD Northcom, which is co-located at your location.
Yeah.
So that's here within the country. There's a lot of other locations that we have throughout the country and throughout the world. It's definitely a global career field, but those are the ones that a lot of people maybe can kind of know of just because, like I said, the importance of the 9/11 mission. And we do a lot of other sets here out of Tyndall. So we also do Homeland, I'm sorry, drawing a blank with the words, but anytime we have any kind of natural disaster, a hurricane, tornado, we also do the emergency management piece of that. And recently here at Tyndall, we've also started the human space flight support. So quite a few different mission sets and hats that our folks are responsible for. So 25 years of my career have been that. And then while I was expecting my children, I did take a pause in my career and helped out a lot with public affairs, public relations, community relations. So like I mentioned, I have twin 18-year-old boys. So I definitely grew size, and it was easier to take a step to the side and do, it was wonderful that those career fields allow me to, help them out during that time. They were very patient in allowing me to dabble in their business, but it was also very eye-opening to find out what all goes into presenting a message and conveying a message and, getting a message across. And so that was very rewarding. But I always tell people I'm not an expert. I learned what I learned. And then recently, as I was finishing my career, I had an opportunity to work with some protocol teams. We have a 3-star here at Tyndall, so I was able to support that team for a while. That was also very rewarding, very eye-opening. You just sometimes don't realize how hard some people work behind the scenes to make everything look so good.
Yeah,
and
so
again,
easy.
And so beautiful. Everything's about presentation and image, and of course, just world-class execution. And so it was humbling, but also very rewarding to get to see how some of those teams work.
It is amazing, Chief. The more, and I don't get out as much as I used to. Although anybody listening who needs somebody to yell at, inspire or speak to their folks, let me know, because I'm available for that. But it's just amazing what all of us do. And it's sometimes when you talk to people who have not done this, have not been in the military, they don't believe it. It's that big. No way. Yeah, I used to do that. I was a band guy. I played for every president from Nixon through Clinton. I played
How
for
amazing.
how amazing. How many people think that? I'm from Deming, New Mexico. The population is 83 or something like that. You don't do that. So it's hard to believe. But these youngsters, and even with the technology, because they could Google it. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's you. Yeah, that's me. But still, it's like, who cares? Unfortunately, but yeah, we do extraordinary things, Chief, and we should all of us should be proud of what we've done. It becomes mundane, after a while. I was at Whiteman several years ago speaking, and I went out to check out the B2s, and I'm in awe. I'm thinking, because I know the mission and all that stuff. Oh man! And I'm talking to a couple of NCOs, and I'm saying, man, what a mission! And they're saying, well, what do you mean, Chief? To do this and blah blah. There's 20 airplane, and they're right here. And yeah, I come in and do my job and go home. It's like you don't understand, man. You just don't. You can't. They can't. Because, and especially for that, because they're right there at Whiteman, they don't go anyplace, But that's it's amazing what we do. It's great. So anyway, and forgive me, I don't want to be offensive, but I want to ask this question because I think it's pertinent in many respects. Were you ever disrespected? You're a female, Chief. You're a Latina. and I can't tell, but you're probably not more than 5'1" or 5'2" tall.
That's great. Yeah, that's right. Spot on.
And you carry a chancla. That I know. But were you ever discriminated against in those 25 years that you served?
I think that there were definitely times where I was questioned. What are you doing in this room? Why are you here? What's your value that you bring?
Because of your
And
race or your gender or what?
both. I think both.
Both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really glad that I learned early on and realized, and I'm sure there's many memes and cliche quotes out there, but a lot of the time, I do realize that a lot of times that comes more from insecurities in the other individual than really they had to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure, like even in basic training, I remember meeting individuals who would look at someone of another race and say, I've never met someone that looked like you.
Right.
And I thought that was, crazy in my mind. I joined at 18. I grew up in Southern California, but my family is Colombian from South America. So I actually was born in Colombia, lived there until I was 8. And we left because of the, civil unrest and all of the things that I hope never, come to be in our country here. But I think one of the benefits of having grown in a Latin American, South American country is the true diversity of races, between our native people and European, descendants, Caribbean, African, and of course, even Asian population. South America is just so truly ecologically diverse. And I never really, had put so much thought into it. And then I joined the Air Force, which is a multicultural organization. And you realize that unfortunately some people have some backwards thinking or have just never been exposed.
Right.
So I try to give people grace, but I will say that I always tried to take that as an opportunity to sit in a room, sit in my space and take command when needed and just let people know that there's absolutely room for every single one of us. It takes all kinds to lead our people and to influence our airmen and our service members, because I've worked in joint service components and I did experience some of that. But again, I always tried to, when I felt those, when I had those moments, and there were some people that really challenged me. I mean, there were some people that I realized that there was nothing I could ever do to meet their expectations, their standards, and I like to get along with the people that I like or the people that I work with. But I also realized early on that it is not, likership, it's leadership. Right. And like you said, you get to a point where it's like, if I got hired to do this job, it's because that I bring value to this team and to what I have to say. And if you don't like it, I mean, I'm not getting paid extra to give you this advice. I'm looking out for you. I'm trying to keep you out of trouble. I'm trying to advise you. And if you don't want that, then, that's your problem, not mine, I think of a recent example. I worked with a civilian, very technically proficient, probably one of the smartest people that I've really had the opportunity to work around. And I was looking forward to it because I thought, wow, I could really learn from this gentleman. He had been hired into our team as a GS 1314. So, those roles come with a lot of experience. And he just, from the very beginning, he let me know that he was not happy that I was there because he had someone that he felt could do a better job in my role, a buddy of his that he had worked with, a fellow bro of his. And he was very open about it. And I was like, okay, and then he made a couple comments about maybe not race necessarily, but just, like he was from Ohio, so I'm not from Ohio. Like, okay, once again, I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
Right. Yeah.
But unfortunately, I remember, like I said, giving him a lot of grace, just thinking, all right, well, maybe he'll see my work ethic and he'll see what it is that I bring to this team. I pride myself in being a team builder and being cohesive. And, like at the end of the day, we're all here. We don't get to pick our teams. You just want to influence and bring the best out of everyone that you've got on board. But he also had some personal issues that he would disclose. I feel like people's values and issues do seep out of them if you pay attention. And, heavy alcoholism to the point where sometimes it would interfere in the work center. And it got to the point where I started noticing how ugly he was, and most severely to our enlisted. And so I had to go to leadership and I said, listen, this person has some issues. I know he has some issues with me. I'm not trying to make this personal. However, the things that I'm noticing that are toxic are the alcoholism, the, backstabbing. He was, even our boss, who considered him a friend, anytime our boss was out the door, it was slander this, slander that. And I always thought to myself, if he's doing that to his quote unquote, best buddy, flying friend, then what's he saying about me? Because I knew he and I weren't on the right level. But I sat down with him a couple of times and I said, listen, you are not effective and I'm not effective because we've got this tension, and people aren't dumb, people can see through that. So we either have to figure out how we can work together or something's got to give. And I'm not leaving. My orders are here. And eventually, some people didn't like the fact that I brought some of those issues up because I do work in a heavily dominated male operations career field. So I was told a couple of times like, oh, you need to knock it off with the drinking comments. And I told them, I said, listen, I've been in this career field for over 20 years. I know how it goes. I know we've got to blow off some steam, all of the things. But I've also worked very closely throughout my career with every single first sergeant that I could get my reach on. And all of these behaviors progressively worsen and something ends up happening, whether it's, some kind of sexual assault, whether actually something happens or some kind of something happens, or, toxic environment, hostile work environment. This is how commanders get fired, and I understand that we work at a staff level, and you think, oh, it's a smaller team. We're all adults and we're all professionals, but somebody could be driving home and they, get pulled over and they get a DUI. And then they're like, oh, this command team, to include a chief, we're all sitting there drinking and they saw him leave and we didn't do anything about it, And then, like I said, for me, not that didn't bother me. That was absolutely wrong in many ways. But what really upset me was his treatment of our enlisted members there was just no respect, no value. You could just see that he devalued people. And as you know, a lot of our enlisted members in just about every service component at this point, some of them have PhDs. We're not in the Stone Age where, this isn't a caste system. We've got some very smart individuals. I know when I did some time in the reserves, I would meet dentists that were staff sergeants when they drilled. And so I just thought this clearly is, unfortunately, a very ignorant individual who has been validated to some extent because he's been promoted. And so he's been told, you're doing all the right things. Your mindset is correct. And that happens, it happens in all fields, not just in the military. But he has gotten away with mistreating people. And so there's nothing I basically stopped taking it personal. I was like, there's nothing I can do to make him like me or respect me. That's a personal thing. In addition to comments that he would make that were terrible about his own personal wife and daughters, which I always thought was disrespectful.
You mentioned talking to your leadership about it.
Yes.
Was that difficult? Because, the way I was, the best advice I ever got was from Chief Gwaltney. I don't know if you ever had a first name. His name was Chief. But he told me, if you want to be an effective chief, you got to be willing to get your butt chewed at least once a week. And he was right. And me being an overachiever, it was more than once a week. I had a really big butt when I became a chief and it went away. But was that tough for you, Chief, to go and talk to? I mean, this is obviously some what we call toxic leaders or stuff happening. Something forced you to go see and I guess his behavior forced you to go see the boss. But was that tough to go in there and do that? Or, and of course, the audience, the primary audience for this program is chiefs, especially youngsters. You got to go and you got to have the guts to talk to the boss and say, hey, this is happening. You got to stop it. And it's even worse when that person, the toxic person, and the boss are buds. But you got to do it, don't you? I mean, obviously you did. Was it tough for you to do that?
It was absolutely tough. So I will tell you, I had joined that team. I had been hired by, an 06 who was great, but he retired within 6 months of hiring me. Thankfully, his replacement and I had a really great working relationship. But then that person was selected for promotion and moved on. And that third person that came in, it was a good friend of his. Mm-hmm. And so initially I was like, okay, how do I approach this without making it again personal? Because the first thing you want to do is you want to leave all emotion. I mean, I was angry. I was very heated, especially, when you get senior NCOs coming in to tell you, hey, chief, I had to go interact with this civilian and this is, he said this or he did this. And here's an email, and it was just these berating emails like, get your head out of your ass. You don't know what you're talking. I mean, these are 20 plus year service members. So,
yeah.
And again, we're in a professional work setting and you get those kind of emails. So I initially had a conversation with him, like I said, and I said, hey, we've got to work together. How can I help you? If it's an enlisted matter, let me handle it. You can get mad at me, but it was not working. That didn't work. That he was just basically like, I don't know why you're getting involved. This is like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Okay. So I actually reached out to a peer of mine that worked in Arizona and I asked her advice. I just sat down with her like I'm doing with you. And I just said, here's my situation. What is your advice? And she said, you got to do something about it, because I was like, I need to filter this through another professional who is not emotionally involved, who's not hot-headed about this. And I want to get what their perspective is. Am I too much in my emotions? Again, I'm trying to give this person a little bit of grace, but her advice was really helpful. And then I reached out then I thought, well, are we just two girls, complaining about something?
Yeah.
And I reached out to a male chief friend of mine and he was like, oh man, that's, yeah. But again, I also know he was kind of like, I don't know, like, your pay isn't going to change. And he wasn't trying to give me, like ignore it, but he was kind of like, maybe you just need, he'll probably move on. And I just didn't sit well with me. I was like, I just feel like I'm going to be passive. And is that what I would want from me if I was a senior, a master sergeant, a staff sergeant looking up and seeing this? Or would I say, why aren't they doing something about this? But I'm also not the kind of person that just like screams down the hall. I'm not like that. So I tried to be as discreet as possible because I also wanted to give this person, the dignity to maybe correct their behavior. And I also know sometimes personalities clash and that's okay. Like we used to say all the time, you should welcome some, respectful conflict or constructive criticism, So I thought, okay, maybe just he and I don't mesh. But it was very difficult. And like I said, my boss at the time, he was not receptive about it. I got the sense that he addressed it because he knew that if I elevated it higher than him, then it would become an issue.
Right.
But I didn't get the sense that the addressing was something he agreed with necessarily.
Yeah.
At the time. And I think over time, someone later shared with me that my boss later said, I wish I had addressed some of these things when she first brought them to me. But, again, I try to give people grace because we're all on our own, like we're all on a different spiritual journey. We're all on a different leadership journey.
Yeah.
And as I know, probably better than I do, a lot of our officers sometimes don't get to lead enlisted until later in their careers.
Right.
And that's a benefit we have. And I was trying to help him. I said, listen, I'm not getting paid anymore to give you good advice. My job here is to help you. And you either allow me to do that or you don't. Either way, I'm not losing my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know as well, Chief, because you've been in the situation where it's hard to take negative criticism, whatever term, feedback. I can't stand that term, but it's difficult to accept that you're not doing what you think you're doing. It's a natural thing, but a good leader, an effective leader, is going to take that. If someone, especially the chief, is one of my favorite people. He'll be on the show soon. Colonel Sanders, not the chicken guy. He was my boss here for a while, and he said he once told me that the worst thing that can happen to a commander is when the chief stops talking to him. And I think he was spot on, because if I ain't telling you anymore, boss, you're about to give it up. You might as well pack up your stuff now, because you're going downhill, because I'm not helping you anymore. But it's a mutual thing. And the same thing, even with Colonel Sanders, when he retired, he said, Chief, there were a lot of times he said stuff that I didn't agree with, and I didn't believe that I now believe. I said, well, at least you got it eventually, and we are all human. So
right.
we all, I was going to say we all make mistakes. I did once. I can't remember what it was, but I can ask Deb and she'll tell me. Chief, I thank you so much for your service and your family. And now your husband is on active duty now?
He is. He is.
Enlisted?
No. So we've had some really great opportunities. We both met when we were enlisted. He did 15 years as an enlisted member, and then had the opportunity to commission. And so he took the opportunity.
He defected. Mira que, gosh. Well, we'll still love him because of you.
Yes, that's right. And he always is very grateful for his enlisted roots. He always says that it is the foundation of his leadership style is, those 15 years that he served as an enlisted member. So I'm very proud of him, because I know that he takes care of our airmen,
or else
with all the love and heart
that
most of us who make it to these seats do.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll make sure of that.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much again, Chief. You take care of yourself. Now, are you teaching, or working now? But you just transitioned out of the
yes,
force, so.
I'm actually looking at some opportunities. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to take that, but probably within the year, I'll probably find my next role. What that'll be, I'm not sure. Yeah. I would love to instruct again, because those of us who've been in these seats, we love to pour of ourselves. But I'm a very faithful person, and I know God has whatever is coming my way the timing will be, divine, like he always does.
Yep. It'll work out for you, whatever that means.
That's right.
Don't push it.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
I'm just going to enjoy this time.
You take care of yourselves. Stay warm. You told me earlier you're like at 180 degrees or something like that.
It feels like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, take care of yourself first, Chief. I know you preached that. Now you got to practice it. Okay. And right. I shouldn't tell you the truth, but it doesn't get easier. There's a point where we can't do what we used to do the way we used to do it. And sometimes it comes way faster than you think. I already know. I should write a book on that. But anyway, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you've gained something from this episode that will empower you to become a more effective leader. If you'd like to connect with us, please do so via our website at leadershipandforesight.org. The book So You Want to Be the Chief is available on Amazon.com and on Apple Books. This podcast is powered by the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight.